This can really help us to communicate with pieces that share so much more with us. It's amazing. It's consciousness. I know that I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. Everything is alive and conscious. Everything is conscious. The rocks, the trees, the leaves, the dirt. And yet all of it has a different kind of weight of consciousness. Welcome back to another video. My name's Nathan, and I actually make videos about high vibrational tools, AKA crystals. And I talk a lot about really awesome and empowering information that we can work with next to the crystals and work with them together to transform our lives and literally take ourselves anywhere we want to go. And honestly, you know, in a universe where I could talk about anything I want, like really, truly, I could turn on my camera and say anything I want. It's the truth. I just love talking about crystals. This is what I want to talk about. So in this video, what I wanted to share with you guys is that over the last 3 years, I have had a lot of crystals and worked with a lot of crystals and had a lot of even the same kinds go through my hands because I'm also a crystal seller. So I end up buying a lot of crystals that I end up selling to other people to support myself, for example, right? So all this information and what I've collected over this is what I'm going to share with you guys in this video. And it's how to choose the piece that's going to be the most powerful for you. And what I've summed it up to is what I'm calling consciousness, okay? So when we talk about, for example, Moldavite, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the camera around. I've got a whole bunch of crystals set up to show you guys. Sorry for those interruptions there. We're gonna go ahead and get this good smooth flow going now. So I got some crystals set out to show you. So check this out. Here we have an example of a highly conscious piece of Moldavite. Now when it comes to Moldavite, all of them have the same vibrational properties because they are all Moldavite and they're all connected to what I will refer to here as an informational entity. Okay, so when we have a whole bunch of people experiencing something from, let's go ahead and say Moldavite, it ends up going into this huge collective of information. Now this becomes an informational entity that anytime anybody ever goes and picks up a piece, depending on how powerful and how big that informational entity is, you'll experience a push of that energy. The informational entity will kind of feed you just a little bit of its frequency so that you feel a connection to it. Now, the purpose of this for the informational entities is theoretically that every single one of us in all life, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the camera around for this part. What it seems like to me is that all of life and conscious beings have a similar goal of expanding and becoming bigger and bigger. So it seems to me that these informational entities that are literally alive in a certain dimension of things, they literally want to feed us their energy, because once they feed us their energy, we'll actually start feeding them our attention and energy and helping them to become bigger and bigger and bigger. So this is the key and part of the crystal energy that we experience. A lot of it is coming from this informational entity that is essentially kind of trying to hook you and get you on its line and feeding it energy. But don't worry, it's not a scary thing. You literally cannot navigate reality without interacting with informational entities. Our whole society, the fact that we all live the way that we do, drive the things that we do, all this stuff, eat the food, it's all informational entities that exist, and we're basically all just like robots, like just doing the bidding of the informational entities in this whole other dimension of things. The point is not to be like all morbid about it. It's actually pretty cool, because when you tap into this and you work with it more, you realize that you can actually use the informational entities to your advantage, and instead of having them rope you into unconscious behaviors and living a life that you don't actually want for yourself, you can have that awareness and use the specific informational entities to tap yourself into extremely high powers and things like this. And this is why I'm absolutely freaking obsessed with crystals, guys, because think about it. This is an informational entity that is feeding you energy, but it's also helping you because the energy that it's feeding you is energy that empowers you to choose your own path. That's why the informational entity of crystals is my favorite one of all of them, because we get fed energy that actually empowers us. Yes, we're feeding energy to the entity and helping it to grow bigger, but it's indirectly giving us an exchange of energy and information that helps us to choose the path that we want. Whereas a lot of informational entities actually just kind of poke and prod you and just drain you, and you end up living a life that you don't want to live because you're just a slave to them. Crystals are the one informational entity that I can think of that is actually just genuinely helping us and is one of the best ones there. So this is one of the pieces of crystal energy and what we're feeling from them. Another piece of what we're feeling from the crystals is referred to as intention. When you pick up a crystal, you might have the intention that this crystal is going to help me be more competent. Now, if you carry around the crystal and you continuously see it and you're reminding yourself, it reminds you over and over again, then it will help you to be more competent, right? And you're generating that with your intention, and the crystal is an amazing tool to work with intention. But there is a third piece of the energy, and it is exactly how I will only choose my crystals by, and it's consciousness. Consciousness, because everything is alive. And when it comes to crystals, some of them have a little bit more life in them. Think about it. People who are alive and we're all walking around, yeah, we're all people, but one person you might go on a walk with and just feel like really nothing from them. They might be kind of like numb or tired. Maybe they've been through some stuff in life. They're kind of shut down. They're not really pumping you up. They're more so draining you. And there's other people you can go on a hike with where you're just like, woo! Yeah! Because the energy is just so pumped up by them, right? Like me right now, for example, I'm like vibing freaking hard. So if you were hanging out with me right now, you'd feel super freaking pumped up. And it's like I'm feeding you this kind of energy too, right? So this is exactly what we're talking about. With crystals, some of the pieces are more alive. And it's the consciousness, that's what I'm calling it. And it's actually super consciousness. So this is exactly what we're gonna talk about. So I'm gonna turn this around again and show you some crystals and talk about some legit examples of how you can choose the most powerful and awake crystal. Okay, so as you guys can see, I have a whole bunch of crystals out right now. I'm just gonna go through and point at them and tell you what they are, just so you all know. Moldavite, Cavinsite, Diamantina Record Lemurian Quartz, Diamantina. We've got blue kyanite, had a brain fart there for a second. Libyan desert glass, selenite, more cavinsite, black kyanite, more cavinsite. I love cavinsite right now, guys. We got a topaz, a Libyan desert glass ring, and a piece of orange kyanite. So these are all the crystals I have here. So what do we want to look for when we're choosing the crystal that has the most consciousness? Well, this is the interesting thing. You actually don't want to look for anything. This is the key. When you're looking at the crystals, a lot of what we're doing is we're looking at it and we're choosing it based on kind of a look, right? Now, a lot of us, we actually end up having success with this because we're very tuned into energies and we don't even realize it, but we're choosing not just a look, but a vibe. And that can be very powerful. But what we want to do is not just look at the crystal and look for specific things that you want in it. Like, I want one that's going to help me to fly. So you start looking for certain qualities in it. Is this one going to help me fly? Instead of doing this, what you want to do is just pick up the crystal, hold it, and look at it, but don't look at it. Like, I'm saying, like, meditate with your eyes open, just staring in the direction of the crystal. Now, if the crystal is superbly conscious, you will know immediately, because the crystal will speak to your consciousness and merge with your own. Everything is constantly merging and becoming one, because it is all one, and everything's coming back to that, and it's freaking amazing. So what you want to do is literally be holding your crystal. I'm turning the camera around again. You want to be holding your crystal and connecting not to the look of it, not to the vibe, not to what intention you want to use it for, but literally just the consciousness of it. And it's a hard thing to explain. But I think that maybe some of you guys have had an experience where you've bought a crystal that you knew was real, you knew it was authentic, but you didn't feel much from it. And sometimes this can be because the crystal belongs to somebody else. It's meant for someone else. Maybe it's just getting passed down in your hands and you're part of its life path to getting to its true person. Sure, this does happen sometimes, but there are crystals that are dead and do not generate energy. I don't know why. I'm not going to explain why, because I don't know. But what I do know is that it's true. And that it's just kind of the way that it is, at least in my layer of reality. The consciousness of the crystal is where the power is really, really coming from in a whole other way. not just because of intention, not just because of the informational entity, but because the piece is very woke, okay? Imagine hanging out with someone who's woke and has seen some shit, and their spirit, their soul, the spark of God that they are, has been here for a while and had lots of experience and gained lots of wisdom. Hanging out with this person, they're going to be able, just by being themselves and just talking about what they're thinking about, are going to help you to transform immensely, almost like shamanism. The crystal that has the same kind of consciousness where the spark has been around is a funny way to look at it, right? This can really help us to communicate with pieces that share so much more with us. It's amazing. It's consciousness. I know that I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. Everything is alive and conscious. Everything is conscious. The rocks, the trees, the leaves, the dirt. And yet all of it has a different kind of weight of consciousness. Some things are more conscious. Like humans, for example, we're conscious enough that we're able to move around and choose the experience we want for ourselves. And yet most of us are living unconsciously and letting other people and informational entities and the way that things just happen to be, and this is the way that life is. We have the ability to be more conscious, but we're acting unconscious and letting all these other stuff drive and create our lives for us. Side note, there are people right now, though, and they're waking up all around the world, and they do know how to exercise their consciousness and awareness. And there are crystals that are doing the same. They're waking up. And let me tell you something, crystals know how to choose their reality. They are extremely in tune. And just because we don't see them with legs and arms walking around and babbling about some shit they heard yesterday, oh, they're alive. And they exist in a multitude of dimensions just like you and I. In one of your and my dimensions, it's more like a dream and less physical. To the crystals, the same thing is happening. They're in this physical reality with us, but I'm telling you, in the dream reality, the fifth dimension, where everything is super malleable and everything's already happened and happening at once and you could choose anything, this is where the crystals live more than any of the other dimensions. You and I are really, really strongly existing in the third and fourth dimension, most likely. Crystals have most of their weight and conscious awareness in the fifth dimension. So when you pick up a crystal in the physical dimension that is woke and knows that it's a multidimensional being, it's constantly streaming in information and energy from its fifth dimensional self, just like I do when I'm channeling and in a channeling state in these videos sometimes. Just like you do randomly sometimes. I know you guys feel it. It's like you're channeling what we call our higher self, but it's different. And the crystals do this too. So that's the most powerful crystal, according to me and my experience, is the one that's the most conscious. How do you know if it's the most conscious? Oh, the crystal will let you know. The crystal will let you know. And that's the key to picking the most powerful crystal. I think what a lot of us end up doing is we know, okay, I'm having throat chakra issues. So we start researching best crystals for throat chakra. Okay, lapis, right? Okay, this is what genuine lapis looks like. You want it in a sphere shape because it moves the energy more, right? Humans, we have all these lists of information that we share with each other. And then guess what that list becomes? An informational entity that basically steals you away from your own individual path to pull you into its reality and what its truth is. So my recommendation is to stay away from that stuff. And doesn't it sound insane that I'm telling you that, considering I'm somebody who shares benefits and effects of crystals on the internet? Yeah, and that's probably how you can know that I probably mean what I'm saying, because I'm totally saying this. I'm totally saying this, man. The crystal will let you know. If you go to choose the crystal with all this prior knowledge and information of what's gonna make it the most powerful, what's the way I want it to look, this and that, you are not listening to the consciousness of the crystal, you're listening to your idea and what you're projecting at the crystal. If you can let go of your projections and the information that you think the crystal's supposed to be and all the ideas and beliefs you have about what it's gonna do for you, and you just simply look and listen to the crystal, oh, you'll know if it's conscious. And when you connect with a piece that is really conscious, and I'm saying like thousands of crystals have been through my hands. And I would argue that maybe just 100 of them had this super consciousness I'm talking about. It's something else. And that's why when I buy my crystals now, because I only tapped into this probably a few months ago, when I buy my crystals now, I don't buy like huge bulk random amounts and stuff like this, because you can't choose the consciousness. You can't actually interact with them. I'm getting what somebody else chose for me and gave me a bunch of pieces of. That's why I specifically pick the pieces that are awake and are super conscious activated and are tapped in. And that's the only thing that I sell now. Self-promotion, guys. I sell crystals, and I know I pick the best ones. I freaking know it. If there's anything I know, it's crystals. So this is a really epic conversation, in my personal opinion. I would love to hear what you guys think about this. Reflect with me here. What was your most powerful crystal ever? And then reflect on the way that it interacted with you. It was like the crystal was alive, right? It wasn't just you projecting your intention and beliefs at it. Oh, it was alive. And for those of you that have truly connected with the crystal, I know you know that it was alive. And I know you know what I'm talking about. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I had a lot of fun making this one. Thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for letting me know what you think below and telling me about your most powerful one. And I'll see you guys for the next video. Thanks a bunch.